All right, welcome everyone to another webinar series with Children's Craniofacial Association. My name is Khadija and I am the Outreach Director at CCA Kids. I am joined here today with Vanessa Acero, and Vanessa's educational background includes a bachelor's, master's, and doctoral in clinical psychology. Her clinical practice specialties include neuropsychological testing, trauma treatment, biofeedback, and evidence-based modalities. Additionally, she provides parent coaching, mentoring, and groups to parents and caregivers in the craniofacial community. Vanessa's mission is to educate, provide a safe place for processing, advocate, and bridging the gap between the medical model and emotional wellness. Vanessa lives in Southern California and absolutely loves it there. She loves to travel the world, from camping to exploring new countries. In her spare time, she can be found either reading, spending time with family and friends, golfing, or paddleboarding. So we are joined here with Vanessa today for expectation setting for the holidays and emotional wellness. And before I let Vanessa go ahead and start us off on this webinar, I do want to remind everyone that this session is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose or to treat any illness or condition. No one on the call can offer specific or individual medical advice, but can share from their own experiences. For medical advice or professional help, we suggest you contact your personal medical doctor or craniofacial team. Please understand that the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this webinar belong solely to the speakers and not necessarily to Children's Craniofacial Association, the speaker's schools, employers, organizations, committees, or other groups or individuals. So welcome, Vanessa. We are so glad to have you. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Khadija. It's always a pleasure to work with CCA, and I'm honored to be here today for this presentation.
Awesome. We are glad to have you. I'll open this up for you. Awesome.
Okay. So the topic of today will be managing expectations and emotional wellness. I'd like to start off by identifying and naming our emotions. Some of our primary emotions include anger, happiness, fear, shame, disgust, surprise, and sadness. Often when we're angry, we become frustrated, we become annoyed, we become irritated. When we're happy, we're joyous, we're excited, we're ready for our next adventure. When we're experiencing fear, we're afraid, we're ashamed, right? Shame, feeling guilty, when we're in disgust. So some of these primary emotions are important to identify. Sometimes we might feel frustrated or be noticing that our mood has changed, but we're not quite sure how to identify. And the reason identifying emotions is so important is because in order to communicate how we're feeling and our needs, we need to be able to identify and name our emotions. So take a minute and identify what you're feeling right now. Perhaps you're hungry or tired or excited or experiencing joy over a holiday tradition up and coming. So now that we've identified our emotions, we'll go ahead and continue. Expectations and stress. Throughout the holidays, often we are filled with different events and commitments, and it's important for us to manage our expectations and set realistic goals for ourselves. So when we set an unrealistic expectation, if we are following through with our daily commitments and working or taking care of our children or our loved ones or staying healthy for ourselves, and we're setting an unrealistic expectations and we're saying yes to everything, an invite to a party, an additional outing, an additional commitment, and we plan to do all of these follow through with all of these commitments, that might be a little bit unrealistic. We have to remember that we need to sleep, nourish our body, restore, and follow through with our routine commitments. So making sure throughout the holidays that you're able to identify if you're setting unrealistic expectations. When we set unrealistic expectations, it's often a recipe for failure. So we need to manage that. And that includes noticing if we are taking on too much for the day, managing our mental health. So expectations and stress, managing our mental health throughout the day. If we're taking a vacation, or if we're attending a holiday outing, or we have a change in our routine, are we checking in with our mental health? Are we identifying our triggers? If we take medication, are we taking our medication? Are we taking care of our primary needs? And identifying stress, physical and mental. So identifying stress, how do we identify stress? Stress is a physiological and psychological response to anything that is overwhelming. So if you're noticing a change in sleeping patterns, if you're feeling irritable, if your partner or loved one tries to engage in a conversation and you're responding differently than you normally would, those are key identifiers. Or if you're noticing any somatic changes or cognitive changes in the body, changes in appetite, changes in GI, again, not related to a medical condition, but more affiliated with stress, headaches, tensions, muscle aches. These are important identifiers and precursors to a larger condition. So it's important to take care of ourselves by taking plenty of rest, reaching out to loved ones, setting boundaries, and maintaining our routine. That circles back to making sure that we have proper nourishment, we're taking our medications if we take any, if we have commitments and appointments, doctor's appointments, commitments with our family, exercise. So if you go to the gym every day and it's the holidays, it's okay to maybe adapt the routine slightly, but make sure that you're still maintaining a sense of routine consistency and managing your to-do list. So one thing that I like to do, anything on the list that is out of your control. So if we have, for example, 20 things on the to-do list, and we notice that 5 of them are out of our control and 3 of them can be delegated, and we can ask for help, then now our to-do list has really decreased in amount of items. And asking for help is important. So delegating, managing expectations, managing the to-do list, maintaining a routine, identifying changes in the body, physical or mental, that can also be associated with changing thoughts if we're noticing that our thoughts are becoming overwhelming and we're feeling out of control, feeling like we can't get everything done in one day. We need to identify our thoughts and take a step away, take a break, take 5 minutes outside, step away from your family member, your computer, your children, outside of your office in order to be able to take that space and that mental clarity. So it's really important. How do we manage unrealistic expectations? That also includes setting boundaries. So often I hear for the holidays, some of the concerns is setting boundaries with family members, setting boundaries when perhaps you're having anticipatory anxiety about attending a holiday event and your relative, or if you've had a trauma trigger or any type of anxiety with apprehension about certain questions being asked. Why are you single? Why are you not married? Are you dating anyone? What are you doing for work? How have you been? When we receive these questions, sometimes before we even attend an event, we might have a lot of anticipatory anxiety. So setting boundaries, again, managing stress, managing expectations, and setting boundaries. Learn to say no. If you have an event and you are invited, but you already know that you have a busy week ahead of you, it's okay to say no. It's okay to use your voice and set that boundary. And you can do that in a loving and kind way. Thank you for the invite. I'm unable to attend. I would love you to, but I'm unavailable. Thank you so much for thinking of me. I would love to join in the future, right? And prioritizing your self-care. Self-care can be a variety of integrative modalities. So with self-care, it can be a trip to the spa, it can be taking yourself out to dinner, it can be getting your nails done, or it can be setting up a picnic at the park, it can be reading a book, it can be doing a facial at home with your friends and watching a movie, it can be cooking a nice meal, it can be going for a walk. So prioritizing self-care. Often when we think of self-care, what I hear is these big elaborate events. And when I complete this, then I will be able to do that. And that is not the case with self-care. Self-care should be unconditional love towards yourself, and it should be interweaved into your daily routine. And it should be interweaved when you're noticing that your body is feeling dysregulated. Dysregulation, not feeling at ease, noticing anything in your body has changed, you're unable to sit still, you are pacing, your thoughts are racing, and identifying people-pleasing. So people-pleasing is the opposite of saying no. People-pleasing is placing other people's needs before your own. So when we people-please, if someone invites us to a party or a holiday outing, we are more prone to say yes, even if we know that it would be past our bedtime, it would exceed our financial comfort level, it would put us in an uncomfortable situation and surroundings, or it would trigger us. So we're placing other people's needs first and saying, yes, I will attend, yes, I will do that, if we don't feel comfortable. So identifying those people pleasing and sitting with the discomfort. So when we feel an emotion, sometimes it can be foreign, it can be strange, especially if you're initially in the beginning stages of learning how to set boundaries. It might feel really uncomfortable to say no, or thank you for the invite, but I'm unable to attend. It might feel really, really foreign, but you have to honor your needs and do what feels best for you. And eventually with that growth, you will notice that you're feeling more at peace, and other people will eventually respect that boundary. Sometimes individuals will try to override your boundaries and say, come on, we'll just come out for a little bit, or why not? Or I know you're not doing anything. And it's important to adhere to your boundary and view this as an act of self-love. So again, throughout the holidays, when individuals want us to overextend ourselves, whether it be through an event or with a financial commitment, it's okay to say no. It's okay to honor your own needs, and it's okay to feel that discomfort and sit back and process that and notice what you're feeling in your body, journal about it, reflect on that. And it's okay to say, I'm feeling really uncomfortable setting this boundary, but I know it's what's best for me. I'm honoring my needs, right? And one thing that I always like to recommend is, what advice would you give your friend? Would you tell your friend to place herself in a situation that wasn't in his or her best interest? Likely not, right? So why would you yourself not be worthy of setting the boundary for your own self to meet your own needs? And identifying codependency. So setting boundaries, saying no, self-care, people-pleasing also coincides often, not always, but sometimes with codependency. If you're feeling like someone can't do something alone, or you always have to do something with another individual, you might want to explore and take yourself out for a walk, take yourself to the park, and journal about things that you love about yourself, right? A lot of self-love comes from setting boundaries. When we love ourselves so deeply, we are able to really honor ourselves at our highest needs. So identifying what is best for me, what do I love about myself, and do I love myself enough to be able to place my own oxygen mask on and take a step back from the situation? Or do I feel triggered and the need to people please? And if that's the case, that's okay. We are always able to grow and make change. The first step is to identify. Identify if perhaps some of these traits and qualities pertain to you. That might be an opportunity for reflection and self-growth if some of these topics are resonating deep within you. Again, continuation, asserting boundaries with your family members. Remove yourself from a situation. If you are already at a holiday event and you're feeling triggered, remove yourself from the situation. Take a deep breath. One thing that I recommend is when you step away from the situation, count backwards from 4 to 0. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture of 20 to 0, 4 to 0. Get an ice cube, rub it on your arm, feel the sensation, get yourself a cold glass of juice or water, and remove yourself from the situation. Integrate your senses. Notice what else you see. Notice your surroundings. Feel your feet on the floor. Press your hands right together. Notice yourself getting back in your body. A lot of dysregulation when we are around individuals that might trigger us and ask us really challenging questions that we're not really wanting to answer, right? Assert your boundary, communication. If a family member or friend circling back were to ask you, why are you doing this? Or how is this going? Or do you have kids yet? Where do you live? What are you doing? Why are you not doing X, Y, and Z? Thank you so much for caring about me. I would like to really enjoy the party today, right? Or please respect my boundary to not speak about that topic. So really just placing your boundary, and others will respect that when you set that boundary. If it's a continuation, you may have to reassert your boundary multiple times to reinforce it and remove yourself from the situation. If there's a larger situation at hand where you are feeling really triggered and you're aware that this might happen around the holidays, family tension, arguing, different types of negative environments, you may want to consider not attending if the environment is very toxic, or if you feel that you're unsure and it's causing you anxiety, you may want to consider taking your own vehicle or planning ahead and setting the expectation. I would love to attend. I'm available. I can only stop by for a little while, for about half an hour or an hour, but I certainly will be there. So managing the expectations instead of feeling like now you've arrived at the party and you have to be there from 6 p.m. to midnight. You've set the expectation for yourself that you will stop by, you've taken your own vehicle or form of transportation or found a form of transportation so that you are able to remove yourself from the situation and taking the deep breaths. Limit alcohol, right? Throughout the holidays, it's always a good idea to limit alcohol, but essentially, especially if we have a lot of individuals that are consuming large quantities of alcohol, there could often be some really intense conversations and words that might be unwarranted that can often occur with overconsumption of alcohol. Again, avoiding these challenging topics, picking a topic of choice. And so when you have that aunt or cousin or uncle or friend or whomever who asks these challenging questions and you are already experiencing anticipatory anxiety, you can create and set the tone. You can say, hey, it's so good to see you. Tell me about your trip. I'd love to learn more. I've noticed that you took pictures or posted pictures at the zoo or on an outing, or what an amazing dish you baked. I would love to learn the recipe. Can you tell me about that? And set the tone. And if that still doesn't work, then again, set your boundary and redirect and remove yourself from the situation. Remember that you always have control, and noticing what you're feeling in your mind and in your body and your thoughts is the most powerful tool to allow you to assert your boundary with loved ones, family members, friends, etc. Around the holidays, it's not uncommon to experience a lot of grief as well. One thing that I notice a lot working with individuals is that the holidays, while they often have a very positive outlook when we are at the mall or we go to Starbucks and we get the holiday cups and we are noticing the Christmas songs on the radio. Again, the expectation that if everyone around me is happy, then I should be happy too. So I should be able to smile and laugh and be happy like everyone else. But acknowledging that around the holidays, it can be a really difficult time for individuals who have lost a loved one, whether it be around the holidays or just remembering that that individual is no longer with them to celebrate and join them for their holiday festivities. So it's important to acknowledge it. Acknowledge if you're starting to feel different and nothing else has changed in your life. Things are going well in your home, in your family, in your place of employment, in your volunteer commitments, but you're noticing agitation or any shift in mood and attitudes and feelings. Are you being triggered? Is there something that is coming forth? It might be the memory again of a loved one, and talk about it. Talk about it, remember the memories, start a new tradition with your loved one. And it's not uncommon to be experiencing some of the stages of grief, denial, anger, right? Bargaining. So noticing depression, noticing when these feelings arise, and give yourself permission to feel your feelings. Allow yourself to say, today is Christmas Day, and I'm feeling really sad because I am missing my loved one. Allow yourself permission to say it and to feel that. And allow yourself to remember the memories. Allow yourself to go through pictures and engage in a new tradition. If it's a spouse or a friend or a loved one, allow yourself to create a new memorable tradition. Managing alcohol consumption throughout the holidays can be another important factor to be really mindful and aware of. So if we are at a company event or a party, often the holidays reportedly have a higher alcohol consumption for individuals. Safety should always be first. If you're having dark thoughts, never get behind the wheel if you've been drinking. But walk away from the bar. If you're at an event and you're feeling triggered or you're feeling like it might be too much, limit the amount of consumption or empower yourself. And if you are attending an event, take your own drink. Take your Martinelli's or your apple cider or your favorite cappuccino recipe and share it. And make sure that you are able to bring your own drink or walk away from the bar. Spend time with sober people. Build a community of individuals that are doing other activities. A sober Halloween or holiday party, a sober event where you can meet new people. You can have a cookie party. You can go decorate. You can, if you're a member of a congregation, attend your congregation, right? Volunteer, go to an event where you can volunteer, and limit the amount of exposure to alcohol if you feel that surrounding yourself by alcohol might be a big trigger. So managing your alcohol consumption and managing stress. If you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, the likelihood of using alcohol in larger quantities increases. So, and you can plan an event. So if you have a hall or a home that you can open to guests, and then you have access to creating the menu and the plan and setting the tone for a non-alcoholic event, if that is something that you feel would really be beneficial in helping managing your alcohol consumption. And if you are an individual that is in recovery, maintaining sobriety might be more difficult throughout the holidays for the same reason: setting boundaries, the stressors, the expectations. If you are also in grief and being triggered for a loved one, call your sponsor. If you're a member of AA or NA, go ahead and call your sponsor and attend a meeting. There are so many meetings that are virtual and in person that you can attend. Again, take a non-alcoholic drink to share, avoid triggering if you are newly sober or early in your sobriety. Remove yourself from the party that you attended last year where there were copious amounts of alcohol. Remove yourself from triggering situations and surround yourself with individuals that are healthy for your mindset, that encourage sobriety, that are uplifting, and engage in those healthy environments to help shape and maintain a sobriety mindset. Also, throughout the holidays, if you are an individual suffering and undergoing treatment with an eating disorder or disordered eating habits, you can also be experiencing a lot of anticipatory anxiety revolving around going to an event and being triggered by the food, right? And the expectation that now you have to engage in acting normal, which is a complete misconception. If you're suffering from an eating disorder, it's okay to honor your needs. It's okay to step away. It's okay to intuitively eat. And if you are food restricting around the holidays, it's okay to practice intuitive eating as well and say, hey, this looks delicious. I don't have to calorie count and limit to 1,200 calories or whatever it might be, any type of food restriction, just using that number as an example. And it's okay to allow yourself permission to have the cake, to have a cookie, to have a piece of pie. It's okay, right? Our body knows what it needs, and our body is equipped to be able to process food consumption without us having to overregulate and hyper monitor our calorie intake. So make sure that if you are noticing a restriction in food intake or having these thoughts of, oh my gosh, if I eat it, I won't fit into my jeans, or I won't fit into that dress, or what would people think, or feeling that your eating disorder is being triggered by some of the topics that we've covered earlier, it's okay to ask for help as well. Gratitude journal can help immensely when we view our food in an intuitive way and give gratitude for the food in front of us, and we're able to view it through a different lens of our body is wonderful. So the food that we eat nourishes our body, and our body allows us to walk and to have movement, and through different forms and variations, we're able to have gratitude that our food intake is able to provide that to us. So not restricting, changing our cognitive views and distortions around eating disorders, and certainly asking for help if something feels heavy. If you notice that you're becoming obsessive about eating, restrictive, or overeating, it's definitely a good idea to seek a medical professional. And over the holidays, with different triggers being of concern, ensuring that we are aware of suicide risks and acknowledging the signs. Certainly there are more than what I have listed, but noticing some of the key indicators. If someone is isolating and it's the holidays and you know they love going and experiencing and connecting, and they are isolating, that's a huge indicator that something is not going well. If there is a letter if there is a change in mood or appetite. If someone significantly over the course of a couple of days or weeks is decreasing in weight and it's not related to any other condition, always seek medical advice, but it could be a sign of severe depression. Major depression disorder is classified by 2 or more weeks and having several signs and symptoms of isolation, change in mood or appetite, change in weight, feeling hopeless, despair, change in hygiene and appearance, grooming, giving away or prized belongings, right? And mood and affect, sad mood and affect. So notice that if a loved one is withdrawing any type of body harm, any type of communication, if they are telling you, I've been feeling really worthless for some time now, I don't know if I can go on. It's so important to know that this is a huge, we want to make sure that as members of our community, we can provide hope and we can provide acknowledgement if someone is in need of a greater help. So take a minute, and we've covered a lot of different topics, and identify your support system. List 3 individuals that you can call. And so 3 individuals might be members of your congregation, might be someone from your program, if you're in an NA or AA program, Codependency Anonymous, disordered eating. It might be a mentor or a role model. It might be a parent. It might be a therapist or a clinician, right? So make sure that you reflect and you have at least 3 individuals that can help you stay sober, stay mentally healthy, accountable for your boundaries, and notice those 3 individuals, right? Throughout the holidays, please reach out to those 3 individuals and access them. So biofeedback is a form of stress reduction. So when we reduce our stress and when we meditate and engage in mindfulness activities, we can rewire our neural pathways to actually create more neural pathways and manage stress better. So that is really awesome and cool. One activity that I really like is meditation, and also being mindful of yoga and movement. We tend to harbor a lot of emotions in our body. So even if we're not cognizantly noticing that we're overwhelmed or that we're being irritated and snapping on someone or a change of mood, if we're feeling that in our body, it's important to release that, be it through biofeedback, stress reduction, be it through yoga, be it through meditation, again, different types of meditation, be it through acupuncture, and really releasing some of those bodily tensions that we're experiencing. One of my favorite biofeedback techniques is called heart breathing. So heart breathing is when you place hand over hand in the center of your heart, and you rest your eyes or soften your gaze, and you inhale for a count of 4 without causing stress or tension. And you imagine that your breath is stemming from the center of your heart. So inhale for a count of 4, hold briefly, and exhale for a count of 4. And repeat this cycle with some calm music for whatever duration you're able, working your way up to ideally a minimum of 5 to 10 minutes. And this activity can really rewire those neural pathways and build new connections. It's also proven scientifically that we used to think that the brain solely sends a lot of signals to the heart, but actually our heart sends a lot of signals to the brain in addition. So by trying techniques as simple as intro biofeedback and practicing some of that heart breathing, we're able to really align with our deeper selves. And one of the things I really like about this method is that we don't need to be at a gym or have a fancy membership or be anywhere in particular. As long as we can remove ourselves, we can take a step away and go to our car or be in our room and practice this technique for a couple of minutes with some really calm and relaxing music. I'm a huge advocate of essential oils, so I like to integrate either peppermint for stimulation and lavender more for relaxation in the nighttime. So depending on the time of day, but again, if you're noticing these anxieties and apprehensions and fears and racing thoughts around questions that family members might say and how to respond and what to do, and maybe avoiding the event because we don't want to be asked certain questions or triggered by family members, we have a lot of tools and we have a lot of ways that we can cope and reinforce some of our ownership of our feelings and acknowledgement of what it is that we need in order to stay healthy. And one of my favorites is Leaves on a Stream. So Leaves on a Stream is a meditative exercise where you can imagine what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you smell, and integrate all of your senses and imagine yourself in a river or on a stream. And you're imagining one leaf at a time is floating by the river, and you'll grab the leaf and you will write down one stressor on the leaf, place it back in the stream, and watch it float away until it's out of your sight. And notice any shift in your experience in your body. And you will continue and grab an additional leaf and write an additional stressor and watch it float down the stream. This activity empowers the fact that you're able to write down the stressor on the leaf and set it forth, and we're not changing anything about the experience or the stressor. We're simply observing and watching it float down the stream, releasing any expectations, releasing any need for change. If your thoughts race or shift, just to notice and remind yourself that your thoughts have shifted and return your mindset to the current experience and continue with the activity. Again, these practices are called a practice because the more you familiarize yourself, the longer the duration that you'll be able to sustain your attention on the activity. So don't be discouraged if you're only able to sustain one leaf or two leaves down the stream. It will continue to build your practice. And some resources that I've listed is 988 is now the revised crisis and suicide prevention. I recommend that everyone stores it in their phone for any type of emergency. So if you are noticing that you're not feeling well, or perhaps even a loved one, that you might be able to share this phone number with them if you're not sure and they're not receptive to any type of feedback, you can say, here's 988, and I'm providing you with a resource if you are really in a state of crisis. We hope that everyone who's in a state of crisis reaches out for a higher level of care, but 988 is available for suicide prevention, and that line is available 24 hours a day. Also, if you're noticing throughout the holidays that you really need some additional support, or perhaps after today's presentation, you might notice that you might not have the support system that you want. That's okay. You can always change that dynamic and create one. You can build a support system or a healthier one if you don't have either one. So psychologytoday.com, regardless of what state you live in, you can filter through your insurance and through your preference, male or female therapist. And you can also sort through if you want in-person or telehealth, and you can find a therapist that you can connect with. So it's an absolutely wonderful resource. Alcoholics Anonymous is a resource similar to Narcotics Anonymous. One is for alcohol, the other one is obviously for substance abuse. And both are wonderful. They are free of charge. You can log on and find a virtual meeting. You can find some information, and you can also log on at any time to either an in-person or virtual meeting for support. Refuge Recovery is also a substance and alcohol recovery, but they are more spiritually based. So their 12-step program focuses more on a spiritual realm than so much the similar structure of an AA and NA. Codependency Anonymous as well, if you're feeling that someone is having large expectations or making you feel guilty for not doing what they want you to do all of the time and engage in activities with them, and you feel that you're not able to create these boundaries, a starting point might be checking out Codependency Anonymous online. All wonderful resources, all free of charge resources in Psychology Today, absolutely phenomenal with very reputable therapists. And I have listed a couple book suggestions that I think are really wonderful. The Mindful Eating Journal is a really great resource, and it's work as you go, intuitive eating if you are having challenges and needing some direction with how to be more mindful with your nutrition. And it is not a nutrition book on education on how many calories you should eat, more so a focus on being intuitive and helping review your food as a nourishment to your body and providing mindful reflection. The 4 Agreements is a self-help book. It is wonderful. It is insightful. It is educational. Atlas of the Heart is a self-help book by Brené Brown. She's a phenomenal social worker, and I absolutely admire her work. A lot of her work focus is around shame and guilt and how our healing takes place in identifying different emotions. In the Realm of Hungry Ghost is a bit of a more lengthy read, but it certainly is a wonderful read on addiction and different modalities. The Setting Boundaries workbook is a great starting point to learn a little bit about your boundaries and help you be accountable on how to place some of those boundaries. The Body Keeps a Score is a wonderful read, also a little bit more content to that book, so it's a lengthier read, and it is written by a fabulous psychiatrist that speaks about movement in the body and trauma modalities such as EMDR, which is an evidence-based trauma treatment. So wonderful suggestions for you to check out, and hopefully if you need some additional support, you will also take some of these reads and suggestions. And thank you so much for listening. I have provided some of my contact information and specialties, and I'd like to leave us with a quote that no matter how hard the past, you can always begin again, by the Buddha.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. And I really love that quote. Thank you for including that. Thank you again for just walking us through kind of managing some of the triggers and stress associated with the holidays, and providing us with some activities that we can do on the spot, like counting backwards or doing the biofeedback activity. So thank you again for helping give us tips on self-care and recognizing our triggers and setting those boundaries this holiday season, and then honestly outside of holiday season as well. Yeah, any other closing thoughts?
Absolutely. Thank you, Khadija. And again, thank you, CCA. And I am hopeful that we will all be able to set some healthy boundaries and manage our expectations and have a beautiful holiday season.
Yes, definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for joining us, and we will see the rest of you guys on another webinar. Take care, everyone.